Hello students. In today's topic, we are going to learn the control flow of a program. In this topic, we are going to learn that how a program executes, whether it executes from top to bottom or from down to top. So, let's get started.
A typical Python program. In this topic, we are going to understand that a compiler reads or executes which line first. First of all, we have created and defined some functions starting from 1 up to k times, and we have written some statements starting from 1 up to n times. The compiler starts to read the lines from top to bottom, but ignores the defined function at the top. It executes the statement first. And for example, if you are calling any function from statement 1, then that particular function will be called from the respective statement. So this is how the compiler reads or executes a Python program. Conditional execution. Let's have a look at how a program executes according to a given condition. For example, I have taken here if statement and the condition is m modulus n not equal to 0. If the given condition comes to be true, then the second statement executes, which is m comma n is equal to n comma m modulus n. This statement states the swapping of the two values. This is a good and better way to swap two values in Python program. Now, if you look carefully how we write if statement, we write if, then give a particular condition, we put a colon, and when we put a colon after pressing the enter key, a single tab is intended, and then we can write our particular statements one by one. Now, if we want to exclude any given statement from the if condition, then we have to remove just the tab space. Now, you can see after the second point, here we have if condition colon statement 1 statement 2. Now statement 1 and statement 2 are executed conditionally because these two statements fall under if condition, but the statement 3 doesn't come under the if condition, so it executes unconditionally. So this is how a program executes according to a given condition. If the given condition comes to be true, only then the statement under that condition executes. Shortcuts for conditions. Now always remember that the numeric value 0 is treated as false and the numeric value 1 is treated as true. And if we have to show that a string or a list is empty, what we do? We just ignore each and every value. We don't store any kind of value inside a string. For example, a single space is also treated as a particular kind of value. Alright, so the empty sequence inside a string or list is also treated as false. Everything else is true. Here is just a small example for you to understand that how you can just remember that which value relates what. For example, if the condition in the if statement is that m modulus n, the condition if comes to be true, only then the first statement executes. If it is not so, then else part executes, which says gcd is equal to n. Now this program is generally for explaining you that how execution works, but this topic is based that what you have to understand in terms of values, that 0 treated as false, empty sequence are always treated as false, and everything else is always true. Alright, so this was just for the shortcuts for conditions. Multi-way branching, the use of elif statement in Python program. For example, I'm going to check multiple conditions by using if as well as else statement. What I'm going to do, that first I'll check that if x is equal to 1, then y is equal to f1x will execute. Now remember, f1x, f2x, f3x and f4x, these are just a particular function taken as an example. Alright, so if x is equal to 1 comes to be true, then the first statement will execute, and if not, then else part will execute, and then another else part will execute. Alright, so this is generally old version of a program. In Python, we have more efficient way of using if and else program statements. We use elif in short form instead of else if. Now you can see in the screen that if x is equal to 1, then y is equal to f1x will execute. If not, then instead of writing completely else if, we just write elif and check whether x is equal to 2, and if, then y is equal to f2x. If not, then we again check the other condition using elif. So this is how we write else if statement as a multi-way branching in Python program. Repeating n times. For example, if we want to repeat any particular statements n times, we generally use for loops. Alright, so in the first line you can see that I've used for loop to repeat elements or just to print directly elements from the list, and the method to declare a for loop is writing for, then declaring a variable. It can be either any variable. I have used I. Then there is a function n. It indicates that whether the variable is stored inside the particular list or the range, and then we can just write print function inside the for loop. Now here another method is using range function. Now in the second point you can see range braces 0, n. Now this generate length between 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to less than n. That means 1 less than n, which indicates n minus 1. Alright, so this will be the for loop for a given range from 0 to n. Now if I take range from I to j, how it will be indicated? It will be indicated that the range starts from I and it will goes up to less than 1 to the last index. That means j minus 1. Alright, now this is how we can repeat elements, or we can just write or print elements or statements using for loop. You will be given more details about the range in further lectures. Loop based on a condition. In the earlier topic, we have read that how a program is executed inside a loop on a given range from 0 to n or from I to j. Now here the execution is done inside a loop on a given condition. So while loop comes under the play. Now what happens exactly that while loop first check the condition. If the condition comes to be true, then all the statements which fall under the while loop are executed, and after each iteration, after each execution of the statements under the while loop again checks the condition to be true. If the condition will be true, again the statement will be executed, and it will go on execution until we obtain condition to be false. So this was the loop based condition. Now the body must ensure the progress towards termination. What happens in the while loop? That we execute the statements until the given condition comes to be false. So the actual progress is to terminate the loop by making the condition to be false. So this time at the same point we are checking condition, and event. We are repeating the statements n times. If we want to repeat, for example, say if we want to just repeat any kind of statement that comes under the while loop, the condition should be like that it goes up to 3 times, that the condition should be true 3 times, and at the fourth time the condition should be false. Only then the while loop will be terminated. So this was the loop based condition, and in the next topic we are just going to summarize that what we have learned. So here's the summary at last you need to remember at the last of this lesson. Now we know that even though we have defined some functions at the top of a Python program, statements are the first line of the Python program which are executed from top to bottom, and those functions will be executed only if they are called from any respective statement. Now, the control flow we have learned are about 3 types. For the first one is the conditional execution, where we check multiple conditions using if and else statements, and in Python we use if and elif statements. Now we have checked the control flow by which we are repeating just fixed number of statements using for loop, and in for loop we have learned a new function that is range, which goes from I to up to j minus 1. If we are writing I to j, then that means it will go from I to j minus 1. And at last, right now we have just learned that repetition based on a condition, which where we use the while loop, in which the condition is checked, and if the condition comes to be true, the statements are executed until we have not obtained the false condition. So this was the short summary that you need to remember at this last of the lesson. So that's it. Thank you.